Hi,
Hello, Richard. How are you?
good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you. Nice weather. It's finally, but I heard that there's gonna be rains coming up. So
Hi, Patty. Yeah. Well, let's I like it when it's a little cloudy because then I can go outside and I don't die. Um, but yeah,
heck,
any yeah. Any fun or excitement you guys want to talk about or stuff to do before we start at 7 past the hour?
no, I mean this the topic is incredible. That's one thing. Another thing, just want to tell people we're gonna have a lot of exciting presentation. Besides, I mean, this is the most exciting presentations, but we side presentations, so to speak.
No,
Um,
look, other people can steal my thunder. It's okay. I've got a lot to share.
I know it. One of the presentations we have this Saturday, anybody interested, is did Caesar have Cleopatra? Did Cleopatra had Caesar child? Caesarion, and we're going to talk about the triumvirate. So finally, a year later, we decided to do that, and then we're going to talk about weird Phoenicians. I mean, Richard had spoken in at length about the Lebanon, but just a little bit of history of that area, particularly weird Phoenicians and did they associate themselves with child sacrifice, which should be interesting. And then throughout this month and next month, we have a lot of really good presentations. If you guys want interested about the mystic of Olmec heads, which were in mostly the South America, so join that as well. That's going to be next month, and we're going to do really something of sideline. History of opera. So if anybody interested in history of opera, that's going to be in July, and there should be Jonathan, who is presenting mostly our knights and armor type of presentations. His wife, who is a PhD in music, would talk about opera. Obviously, I don't have any background in it. So just give it. And besides that, Richard's going to talk about his presentations. We're mostly every Wednesday, and then at some point we'll come back to Ukraine, which we'll also talk about as well. And at some
Yeah,
point we'll come back
yeah,
to
yeah.
Roman Greek history.
We're planning a Ukraine presentation for the I want to say 8th of July. It's whatever that Saturday is. I think it's the 8th of July. We haven't put it up on the calendar yet, but Aaron and I are furiously trying to figure out if we both have availability. So, yeah.
And you guys are going to touch on a little bit of counteroffensive. I don't know how effective it is, but
Well, I have to say it's more effective than what's been happening, what happened for like half a year at Bakhmut. But I agree. I think a lot of people were expecting this triumphalist march, something like what happened at Kharkiv, where they took an entire block of territory incredibly quickly, and that's just not happening.
from what I hear, Russians kind of figured out the way um, to use small units now. They don't no longer attacking at length. So they use small armored vehicles to attack Ukrainians. So they figured out how the Ukrainians beating them, I guess, and now they're trying to beat them their own game. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not a military historian, so I won't opine on tactics. I'll leave that up to Aaron. But I can say from an organizational standpoint, the main advantage that Ukraine had in the earlier days of the war was that Russia was attacking on every front at all points and with no coherency, and that seems to have changed fundamentally. That Russia has specific stated objectives. They're putting unified commands together. They're doing what any army in the last 40 years should be doing, and it's a surprise that they weren't doing that before, but because they're doing it now, their numbers actually count for something.
Also, I wanted to mention if you guys join our YouTube channel, don't be shy. Just send us likes, comments. We like comments. Richard and I, sometimes go and reply back to comments. And we have a variety of different subject matters within our YouTube channel, over 900 videos or so. within 3.5 years or so that we've been posting and continue to post.
Yeah. We have a comment from Patty that the Russian army is targeting Ukrainian infrastructure. That's absolutely the case. Between power grids being targeted, between apartment buildings being targeted, the goal was to force the Ukrainians to leave, because if they can't be Russified, then they'd rather have the territory empty. So, yeah. I think my watch is a little slow. Does anybody have the time?
7:05.
7:05. Okay.
I mean, if people want to learn a little bit more about the history of this conflict, and particularly history of Ukraine, do go to our videos that Richard had posted, earlier versions of the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, particularly, talking about Brest-Litovsk and the Ukrainian independence, semi-independence, I guess.
Yeah,
That's when they.
after World War I, it was independent. And then it got reincorporated into the Soviet Union during the re-Bolshevization, right? Because during the Russian Civil War, it managed to get a certain degree of independence. But yeah, some of those earlier Ukraine episodes in the beginning of the Ukraine series cover all of that sort of 1,000 years with a specific emphasis on the last 200 years of Russo-Ukrainian relationship. So that way you can see where the perspective of the Russians is coming in, that the Ukrainians aren't actually an ethnicity, and the perspective of the Ukrainians that they absolutely are something distinct. There's a comment that the concept of rules of war has been quaintly elegant. Ironically, the rules of war don't exist from some high-minded human rights perspective. They exist from a reciprocity perspective, because they came into existence long before there were international institutions. The Geneva Conventions, for example, are from the 1860s. At least the first two of them are. Geneva Convention 4 is from 1949. But anyway, the rules of international conflict were specifically designed because countries didn't want their soldiers being mistreated when under control of the enemy, and they didn't want territory of theirs when occupied by the enemy to be ransacked in a way that they may well ransack the territory if they control the other side. So it was almost like mutually assured destruction principle, as opposed to something that was designed to be elegant or something that was designed to be high-minded. It was actually designed to minimize problems between different warring states, as opposed to something genuinely, civilized. All right, I think we are at time, so I'm going to start.